Okay, guys, let's go through an example of the writing equations from a story that we talked about over the last couple days. So the story starts out and says, Tommy has to buy some pens, pencils, and notebooks for the upcoming semester. So he has $102 to spend on $5 pens, $3 pencils, and $9 notebooks. He would like to spend the same amount of money on pens as pencils. He also wants the combined number of pen and pencils to equal that of the notebooks. How many will he have of each? So first of all, I did kind of change color a little bit to help myself. But basically what they're trying to do is they want to talk about pens, pencils, and notebooks. Now, usually we would use the first letter to help us kind of remember, but on this, because pencils and pens both start with P, I guess we're going to have to be a little bit more inventive. So I guess we'll use X for pencil or for pens, Y for pencils, and Z for notebooks. So X is the number of pens. Y is the number of pencils. And Z is the number of notebooks. Okay, now if I look at my first sentence, it says there's a total he spends of 102. So each of the pens are $5 each. So when you see this part, that means X has got to go with it. So it's going to be 5X. The pencils are $3, so that means the 3 is going to have to go with the variable of Y, which stands for pencils. This $9 one is going to have to go with Z, because that's how you talked about the notebooks. So out of our equations, this is going to be one of my equations. Now, there are 3 variables, so I have to have 3 equations by the time I get done to put in my calculator. Okay, now the next one says, let me just change color here. The next one says he'd like to spend the same amount of money on pens as pencils. So this right here is the amount of money that I spend on pens. So he wants that. Oops, I guess I better fix that. My pencils were $3. Sorry about that, guys. So that's 3. He wants to spend the same amount of money on pens as he does on pencils. So this is the amount of money on pens. This is the amount of money on pencils. So this is my second equation. Okay, now this one says he wants the combined number of pen and pencils. So the number of pens is X, the number of pencils is Y. He wants that combination to be equal to the number of notebooks, which is Z. So this is my third equation. Now, if I take this part right here and put it in my calculator using my menu 3, 2, I'm going to end up with a set that looks like this: 3, 5, and 8. Now remember, as far as the intersection point, I would have to do 3, 5, and 8 with the parentheses around it. If I'm going to interpret it though, remember X from up here is my pens. Y from up here is my pencils. And up here it says Z is my number of notebooks. So if I talk about interpreting that, that means that Tommy would buy 3 pens, 5 pencils, and 8 notebooks. Okay, now this is the last part we're going to look for because that's your interpretation. Okay, so if I go back here for a minute, I've done really a couple different things. I broke this up so I know what my variables stood for. That's kind of my first part. I was able to get my equations here. Remember, if it's 3 variables, I have to have 3 equations. If it's 2 variables, I have to have 2 equations. When I solve it, I need the set, and I need to know what the intersection is. And then I need to go through and interpret it. Okay? Go over the other ones from your packet today, and then we'll go over these in the morning.